Hi, I'm Malcolm Burrows, Principal of Dundas Lawyers. Dundas Lawyers is an award-winning corporate, technology and intellectual property law firm that also passionately litigates in these areas of practice. In this video, I'll discuss the basics of term sheets and their legal effect when used to document the commercial terms of a proposed contract. In this video, I'll explain just what term sheets are, the common legal issues that term sheets present, and some of the practical issues on how to implement and use them most effectively. So just what is a term sheet? You might have heard this term used in several ways. Term sheet essentially is a document that sets out the commercial terms and conditions on which parties intend to enter into some sort of commercial arrangement. Term sheets may also be known as heads of agreement and are usually not intended to form a binding contract. However, once parties reach consensus on the commercial terms of an obligation, there's normally an obligation to draft a legally binding contract that might be then triggered. So some common clauses in term sheet, regardless of the nature of the proposed contract, include when the proposed contract is to commence, the terms of the arrangement, the renewal terms if there is a renewal period, confidentiality obligations, any conditions precedent that have to occur, things that have to be done beforehand, before the contract comes into effect, the subject matter of the contract, intellectual property rights, payment terms is another one, the overall objective of the proposed arrangement, the jurisdiction, for example, which is also known as the choice of law, and whether the term sheet is intended to create a binding contract or not. So what are the common legal issues with term sheets? Depending on the circumstances, a term sheet may reflect the final agreement between the parties, or it may not. The seminal case of Masters and Cameron considered three categories of contract that can arise from negotiations. Firstly, where the parties have agreed upon all of the terms of the contract and intend to immediately be bound by those terms, but at the same time propose to have the terms restated in a fuller and more precise form. Secondly, where the parties have agreed upon all of the terms of the arrangement, but have nevertheless made performance of one or more of the terms conditional upon the execution of a formal document. Thirdly, where there is an intention of the parties is not to make a concluded bargain at all, unless and until they execute a formal contract. Since this case was decided, a fourth category appears to have been recognised in the case of Baulkham Hills Private Hospital Proprietary Limited and GR Securities Proprietary Limited. In that case, the court said, in the absence of an agreement as to further terms to be inserted into a formal contract, the obligation of each party would be to execute a contract in accordance with the terms of the agreement appearing from the informal contract, i.e. the term sheet. So term sheets usually fall into the third category of Masters and Cameron, in that the intention of the parties is not to make a concluded bargain, unless and until they execute a formal contract. That said, there are also circumstances where they can be legally binding if there is sufficient detail and the intention to be legally bound exists. Practical issues for use of term sheets. Standard form term sheets are often used by large companies who bring a pre-prepared or standard form term sheet to a negotiation, and the other party might feel that they are not in a position to negotiate some of the terms. In most cases, this is just not the case. As a term sheet is usually non-binding, either party can leave the negotiations at any time, meaning that the time and money expended during the period of negotiation will be lost. The learning point from this is that you should really understand your legal position before starting to document the commercial terms in a term sheet and take further steps to ensure that your intention matches the other parties. In other words, both parties have to be on the same page. The other big issue that we see is that, and a big point to practice in terms of a practical issue, is at what point do you engage a lawyer to advise on the term sheet? So at the precise point at which you inject a lawyer to add details to the term sheet or to give it legal efficacy can make a big difference. There are pros and cons of having a lawyer involved early on in the stage and also late on in the stage. The point of this is simply to consider at what point you should be thinking about engaging a lawyer to assist with the negotiation of the terms of the term sheet. So if you're looking for a proactive commercial lawyer to advise you on the preparation of a term sheet or drafting the terms of a resulting contract, please don't hesitate to contact me on 3221 0013 for a confidential and obligation-free discussion. Thanks for watching.